And this is why they have been fairly quiet. They were sleeping on the settee though. The sound of me getting my camera ready kind of woke them up. And they're being a little bit dopey. Oops. Hello. Just wandering around. Oh. One funny thing with ferrets, I mentioned to Meta already, and she asked, well, is that safe? Not really, I suppose. But their legs don't work when they first wake up. They're very, very silly, very dopey. Hello, girls. There we are. Very quiet compared to normal, because they're very, very dazed. Oh, you're going to be going back in your cage, aren't you? Come on then. Oh, Siri, you're going up my trouser leg. You usually don't do that. Come on, out you go. Boom. Ah, let's go back. Now they're going to think it was a game because I'm backing away. That usually means chase me. Now then, I thought I'd record a little bit more of them just playing around and having fun whilst I answer a couple more of the questions. Now the chief one that I've already kind of touched on is that, is generally the smell. I get that asked quite a lot, is don't they stink? And honestly, no, they don't. But again, it comes down enormously to how much or what you feed them and how you keep them. For example, as I said, they're obligate carnivores, so calm down from my ankle. They don't like to eat plant matter. Come on up here. And they're not designed for it, really. They're not like other animals, like dogs at this point are practically omnivores. They can eat what we eat because they've evolved to do that. Ferrets, not so. They're still primarily meat eaters. And if you feed them meat, their digestive system is designed to handle that. Go in your icebox. Play in there. There you go. But if you feed them plant matter, then there's two things. One, their digestive tract is a lot shorter than most animals. And two, there's nothing for me to film now. But the second thing is that they're not going to get much nutrients out of that plant material. So you're going to find that they have to eat a lot more. They're going to have to eat all the time. It's kind of like pandas. They eat such a bad food source for what they are, that they basically have to spend all of their time eating. With ferrets, there's another side to that. Is because they're eating all the time, they're going to the toilet all the time. They haven't got much space to store it, and it just goes straight through them. They don't get much from it, so they constantly have to eat, so it means they're constantly having to go to the toilet. And what's coming out of them isn't particularly well processed, so it's going to have more of an odor. There's going to be more of it, and it's going to smell worse. That is the chief thing, I believe. This is one of Siri's favourite stashes. Hello? You're on camera. Yeah, I don't like this. This is my place. Go away. Okay. But one of the chief things with smell is what you feed them. If you feed them well, if you feed them raw food, raw meat, then you'll typically find that they're not going to smell bad, even when they go to the toilet. Having kept cats, I can tell you that the smell of a ferret going to the toilet is practically not there compared to a cat, even a kitten. If you've ever had like an indoors cat and you've been trying to litter train it, you'll find that the smell is quite potent when they first go to the litter. Obviously, any smell you're used to, you're not going to notice. But even when the ferrets first go, there's no particular odor to it. It's there. You know they've gone, but it isn't bad. It isn't a strong smell. And now the other culprit when it comes to the infamous smell, which I really do feel deserves far less attention than it gets, honestly. They've got this horrible reputation for it, and they really don't deserve it. The other one is simply bedding, and it's why I make a point of changing it every day. Ferret, it's actually probably easier to see on Siri if she'll get in the right light. You'll notice that parts of her fur are a little bit more yellowish than other parts, and that's because of the large amount of oils that they produce for their coat and their skin. One of the things that some people have done is removing scent glands. Honestly, you don't need to. Ferrets, especially Jills, don't actually mark that much. Hobs, they'll mark a fair bit, especially during certain periods of time. But With gills, they mark fairly infrequently. One thing they will do, though, is they'll rub against everything. Like, they'll just rub their fur against it. Not specifically their scent glands, but they'll just, like, drag themselves along a blanket. And that yellowy sort of colour in Ciri's fur, that'll rub off in it. It's just them rubbing their oils on things. That is one of the biggest reasons why where a ferret is kept will have a smell to it. And if their bedding isn't changed frequently, it will become a fairly strong smell. They'll be rubbing against this stuff all the time. And whilst the ferret themselves won't smell much, their bedding can really start to build up this scent. So I change the bedding every day. If you have, I've got enough bedding that I could afford to change it 2 or 3 times a day if I felt there was a need or if there was an accident. And when I first got them, when they weren't quite as committed or as aware of where they should be going, there were accidents, and so I would change their blankets frequently through the day. At this point, it's something I do daily just to keep their environment clean. It doesn't bother them to have fresh blankets there, though, again, it is really important to wash them with a very, very mild detergent. If detergents at all, you can use the vinegar solution instead of any sort of washing detergent. Look at you in your little shoot. Oh, that's beautiful. But as long as you change their bedding quite frequently, and you might be able to hear the washing machine on at the moment, because as soon as I change the bedding, I put it in the wash, then there's going to be very, very little smell. The smell won't be any stronger than keeping a dog or a cat. And this is from someone who has kept both, and has kept both in fairly large numbers as a child. Many, many dogs. Some lived outside, some lived inside. So I'm quite aware and capable of making that comparison. They smell no better or worse than a dog. In terms of actually going to the toilet, as long as they've been fed properly, it smells a lot less strong. But that's the main thing. The bedding and what you feed them will contribute to the smell. And now they're quieting down a little bit, and they will actually sleep like that. She isn't sleeping. They've just been playing. But they sleep in very awkward positions. Hello, Siri. So that's the smell, which is probably the biggest question I get asked about. It's what you feed them and how well you clean their hutch, their cage. Some people wash their ferrets a lot. Now, I want to just very quickly touch on this. Don't do it frequently. Certainly, if they're dirty, if they've got something stuck in their fur, then by all means, give them a bath. But this is something that you shouldn't have to do very often at all. Ferrets, and this is why I don't tuck it in too much, is because Siri is very agitated and will try to scrape it up. But ferrets are very clean. They'll clean themselves much the way a cat will. You can't come out. You've been out today. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry. But if you wash them frequently, then as I was talking about their oils, the water will take their oils out of their coat. Now, some people think, oh, well, the oils are the problem, so if I just clean them, then the oils won't be an issue. No, that's not quite true. Ferrets need those oils. They're very important for their skin and for their fur. So if you wash them and strip those oils away, then the first thing that their body's going to do is it's going to produce more. And it's going to produce more aggressively. Okay, I won't film you going to the loo. But, she didn't. She was lying to me. But if you're taking those oils away, they'll produce more to compensate for it, and they'll produce it much faster and in larger quantities. That'll make the smell get worse for a time. Obviously, you can simply overpower that. If you're washing them every day, their body isn't going to be able to produce that much oil. The problem comes then that their coats are going to be bad, and their skin is going to be very bad. So don't do it. It's not a solution. It's not a good solution anyway. In fact, in many cases, it'll make the smell worse. Just let them do their own thing. They're very, very clean creatures. You don't need to worry about that. Now, in terms of other questions that we might have, I haven't received too many, but there are a couple. For example, what do I feed them? It's a mixture of meats. They're all raw meat, so most of their meals will be bone in muscle, so like chicken legs, duck wings, minced rabbit with the bone minced in. But also they need some heart They actually do need heart. It's got taurine in it, and they need that. Also, like miscellaneous organs like lung, liver, kidney. If you're feeding them a lot of organs, generally you want a mixture. And heart, you don't want to give them too much, because too much taurine is actually bad for them. But the bone is quite important. That's going to be the bulk of their meal. But on the days where you are feeding them more organs than anything else, be aware that their litter is going to be a little bit different. You know, you are what you eat, and what you eat is going to come out of you in different ways. And that is going to be the worst in terms of smell, is if they've been eating, smelly things like liver, like kidney. Generally, I feed them about 3 times a day, and for all 3, it's somewhere between 70 grams to 100 grams per meal. I change it based on how much they're eating. If they're stashing an awful lot, then I'll take some of that away. I won't give them quite as much in the next meal. They do want to stash, so I don't really think it's wise to only give them as much as they're going to eat, because they're probably going to be a little bit hungry, because they do want to stash anyway. So as long as they're only stashing a little bit, I consider that a fair amount to be feeding them. And as I said, it's between about 70 grams and 100 grams, give or take, and depending on the meal and how much they've eaten of their breakfast or their lunch already that day. The other questions, how much time do I let them out? I aim for at least 2 hours a day, more if I can. Quite often when I'm working at my computer, I'll let them out and they'll be running around my feet and they'll entertain themselves. For the first hour, they're very noisy because they're playing with their toys and they're resting a lot. After that, they just kind of chill out and they're just wandering around. 1 or 2 might just go into an igloo or something and just snooze, or they'll go under the couch. They'll find their own thing, or they'll just go back into the cage, because quite often I'll leave the door open and I'll just pull some of this down so they can easily climb up, though. As big as they are now, they can easily jump that distance without any trouble at all. They're actually getting very good at jumping and climbing. The other questions I've had are how often, like how much company do you need to give them? How awake are they? They actually sleep a lot, like 12 to 14 hours a day, they'll be snoozing. They're very good companions if you're going to have like certain amount of time, like you're going to need quiet time for a few hours at a time, or perhaps even if you're going away. Though I got 3 ferrets specifically so they could keep themselves company. They're very, very social. You don't really want to leave them on their own for very long at a time. So with a 12 to 14 hour sleep time, they don't do all of that in one go. But if you weren't around and you were the main source of their company, then yeah, they'd probably just sleep for quite a lot of that, and then they'd be up when you came home. They want to be around you and they want to play with you. So when you're active, they're active. When you're not, they'll go to sleep, and they'll do that quite a lot. If you're around them all the time, then they'll learn certain things. Like, for example, I found that when I'm just talking, they're starting to get to the point now where they don't consider that to mean playtime. But I have noticed that when I say, and do take care, they'll perk up a little bit, because they're wondering, oh, that's the key word. Has he finished doing what he's doing? Is it playtime now? So you will find that they will be looking for things. It's just kind of like a dog. If you pull out the leash, it knows it's walk time. And they kind of move their schedule around you to a degree. So they're very flexible in that way. But that's about it for this video. It's been a very long FerretCam video, and I knew it kind of would be, which is why I haven't done it for a little while. I've been procrastinating and doing other things. But if there are any other questions that you'd like me to answer in the next video, then do, by all means, pop it into the comments, and I will try to make a list. And if I can, I will get to all of them in the next video. But if there are quite a lot, then I might have to split it over 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Who knows? But that is it from me. And it is it from... It's kind of hard to tell just from your face when you're looking like that. But that is Midna. That is Tally. And Siri's being antisocial. And she's sleeping down there. So goodbye from all of us. And do take care.